Hi, my name is Isla, and let's talk about Purple Hearts. What it is, why it works, why it doesn't work, why, just in general. I think I'm so drawn to this movie because you can tell that a lot of work went into it, but it's still a confusing mess. And there's just something very charming about when a movie takes itself very seriously and still fails to be coherent or say anything of note. Also, I'm a big fan of musicals, and I love that this is technically a musical. Purple Hearts was incredibly popular when it first premiered on Netflix in 2022, and it quickly became one of the highest streamed movies on the platform. But if you're unfamiliar with the film, you might be asking, what is it about? Purple Hearts is an adaptation of a 2017 novel of the same name by Tessa Wakefield. It's a classic opposites attract fake romance relationship between a struggling liberal musician and a conservative soldier who get married for the spousal benefits. Hijinks ensue. But I'm going to let leading actress and executive producer Sophia Carson put her 2 cents in.
And our story is more than just a love story. It has a very important social political message. We meet two people from opposite ends of everything, red and blue,
Right.
who are kind of raised to hate each other, like we very much are. And through the power of love, they learn to love each other, and they form this beautiful shade of purple.
Let's not get too much into that right now. Let's just keep that in mind as we watch the movie. So on that note, let's begin. We find our main character Cassie in the Handlebar where she's singing her indie girl cover of Sweet Caroline with her band The Loyal. Cassie finishes her set and the most diverse looking group of armed forces men move into the bar. One of them is actually a boy Cassie used to babysit. His name is Frankie, and another is our mysterious soldier from the intro scene. She serves them, and the men assume that she's flirting because, of course. Cassie tells them that she doesn't date soldiers, and one of them says this line, which frankly left me speechless.
Good enough to fight for your ass, but not good enough to touch it.
This is when I knew I was in for a treat. You actually find out later that this man has a girlfriend, so I'm not sure why he was so concerned with touching Cassie's ass. I guess just on principle. Cassie is obviously very upset at being sexually harassed, and so Luke, the mysterious Marine from the beginning, goes to de-escalate, and we get this back and forth.
Your friend is talking about his right to touch my ass. Apparently you also feel entitled to.
Okay, we're just blowing off some steam.
Not really an excuse for casual misogyny, though.
Drive a Lexus that your parents paid for, but it's a hybrid, so it's okay. you probably tweet a lot about other people's rights, but when it actually comes down
Sorry,
to
it's
fighting...
just fascinating to me. Do you have a PhD in mansplaining?
Guns are mean, you're a pacifist, but you have a little peace stub tattoo on your back to prove it.
On my ass, actually. Which you can't touch, but you can kiss.
Purple Hearts is just casually dropping some of the best movie writing of the 21st century. They casually foreshadow the plot of the movie, and we get the title card. Now that we've seen them interact a bit, let's get into the characters. I'll start with Nicholas Galitzine from Red, White, and Royal Blue, and Camila Cabello Cinderella.
I want to put it out there once and for all that I am the biggest gooner.
He plays Luke. The first time you really interact with Luke as a character is in this bar, and all of his friends are hyping him up, telling us that he's never been rejected by a girl before.
Dude has a perfect track record.
And immediately alarm bells start going off in your head because, like, no, he does not look like that kind of guy. Not even in a stereotypical movie sense. He's like kind of shrimpy. He has a delicate European sensibility. Just right off the bat, I did not buy this performance. I think I almost expected more of a stereotypical masculine military type. Someone more like that guy who wanted to touch Cassie's ass. Also, someone more archetypal like that probably would have worked better as Luke, because throughout the movie, Luke is an emotional rock. He is just the most unfazed person ever. Maybe it's an acting choice, but it's probably more likely that the movie is just written poorly. There are these scenes where he finally admits to how scared he is, and you get it. But never once did I get the sense that he was scared until he said it. I think he's meant to be stoic, and so it really means something when he opens up to Cassie, but I don't care enough about his character or believe enough in his strength for that to work for me. And his stoicness just becomes disassociation when he comes back from Iraq with no strong emotional feelings. He barely even talks about his experience. Like, girl, you were injured in an explosion and watched your close friend die right in front of you. Did that really not matter to you? I guess not. This seems like an important and powerful topic for a movie that wants to make a statement about the military and recovery, but we don't really ever hear about that. I just think that this performance would be a bit more believable from anyone else. I don't have that much to say about Cassie right now. The first thing that strikes you about her character is her singing voice, which is really devoid of any character. I thought at first she might be doing her impression of what indie rock sounds like, but I listened to her music and she really just has a generic pop star voice that's supposed to make her sound as palatable to as many people as possible, which, considering she started her music career with Disney, really tracks. All the interviews paint her as having an illustrious singing career, which I don't doubt, but you check out her Spotify and her most played music is just one K-pop feature and then the entire decades-old Descendants soundtrack. It really feels like this movie is just prompting us to check out her music, which unfortunately I have fallen for. Honestly, her singing is really indicative of her as a character. Cassie is written to be the kind of mic drop SJW you'd see on YouTube 10 years ago or on Tumblr today.
Marriage should be for love. Where I come from, it's for life.
Where I come from, in reality, marriage is really just a pointless legal arrangement.
It's part of patriarchy. Fuckface.
It feels like a caricature because this kind of bleeding heart liberal is made fun of by everyone on either side of the political spectrum nowadays, and it becomes especially garish when Cassie is playing off of Luke's understated silent majority conservatism. I want to get this out of the way now, and I don't know where to put this, but if you've seen anything about this movie, you've certainly seen this. I don't want to nitpick, but Sophia Carson, the actress who plays Cassie, seems to think that this hair in the jacket thing is just like really necessary. And Cassie does it all the time, and there's nothing wrong with it, but like I've never seen another human being do this, like ever, and I don't fully understand why this is a choice that she committed to. It just really bugs me, and I think it bugs a lot of other people who watch this movie. She actually explained this in an interview.
I felt really cool with it like that. And I feel like Cassie's kind of unbothered. Like she doesn't want her hair in her face. So I'd kind of just tuck it in my jacket. And it was a way of like me not having to think about it in a scene.
I don't like that explanation. Sophia said that she chose Nicholas to play Luke because they had so much chemistry over Zoom and had even more in person. But am I the only person who watched this entire movie and did not see that chemistry? Like, maybe they only showed it when I wasn't looking. I understand that a part of their relationship is supposed to be that they're very different people who are kind of wary of each other, so there's obviously tension, but even in this flirtatious first encounter, it feels like they're acting in completely different scenes.
Copy that?
I'll have a Coke.
Okay, my kind of guy.
Hell yeah. Could you throw in some lemon slices with that?
How about you pace yourself, bro?
I don't even think they have bad chemistry, it's just that they don't have any chemistry at all. They just sleep together, and because they're both attractive, people think that's chemistry. Not to psychoanalyze anyone, but I think a lot of the chemistry people were seeing were just patterns from their parents who didn't really like each other.
You're so goddamn stubborn.
We keep going in the movie, and at this point, I'm along for the ride. For Luke, the movie tells us that he wants his father's approval and forgiveness, and what's keeping him from that is a large debt that he owes to an old friend and drug dealer, Jono. Jono lets us know that Luke used to be addicted to opiates, and it was at this point in the movie that I knew that Luke and Cassie were meant to be together because she also has a drug problem. Her drug of choice is insulin. Yeah, you heard me right. She's diabetic, which they really make sure to shoot in the most incriminating way possible. Like, just watch this for a second. But that's besides the point. It's obvious that their representation of diabetes is very strained. Luke's need for money dovetails perfectly into what Cassie wants because she wants to be a rock star with her band The Loyal, and her
That just grows like some mold in a basement.
from her recently diagnosed diabetes is keeping her from that. She works 3 jobs and lives in a 3rd-story walk-up apartment, and you can tell that her apartment is in bad shape because she has to put the door handle back on to open the door.
Your place is falling apart.
So she opens the door to her apartment, and it's this absolutely disgusting and atrocious, well-decorated and spacious one-bedroom apartment that she lives in alone. Love that. So we've established that both characters need money to accomplish their goals, and that's good to know, and a solid premise for bringing them together. You can even see the movie trying to sow the seeds of some thematically irrelevant discontent that will lead to future heartbreak here with the Jono stuff, but unfortunately, the Jono plotline, even at this point in the movie, feels so unnecessarily contrived, and like it's only meant to add some flashy action and suspense to the movie. The setup also really fails for me, in part because Jono offers the least threatening performance in the movie. Anyway, let's just keep watching. That night, Cassie sings Feel It Still. And Can I Level With You People? I actually kind of like her cover. It's an interesting take on the song, and I'd listen to this if it were on the radio and I were too lazy to change the station. And oh, does she feel it still? And by it, I do mean her diabetes because she has a low blood sugar attack and barely makes it to the bathroom before passing out. She looks up and she sees a Marine Corps sticker. And does the movie take us for fools? It said this line 10 minutes ago.
If I marry him, I would get incredible health insurance.
It just feels lazy and like it doesn't trust the audience to do any critical thinking. And it's not like we have to wait long for the payoff, because in the very next scene, she sees Frankie and she asks him to marry her. She explains that if they get married, then they get extra money and she gets his health insurance. Frankie denies her because he's already in a serious relationship, but Luke, who's been eavesdropping, bursts in to tell them that that's illegal. Like, that's his business at all. Luke says that the reason this is illegal is because Frankie and Cassie aren't in love. Good thing everyone I know who's married is in love, and if they're not, it isn't a real marriage. That'll save a lot of people a lot of money in divorce attorneys. Through this conversation, we learn that Cassie's mom is an illegal immigrant, and she gives her big woke speech about immigration, which Luke seems super offended by. I still can't help but feel like the movie plays this as a personality flaw of Cassie's that Luke must overcome in order to love her. In the next scene, in a surprising twist of fate, after being threatened by Jono, Luke asks Cassie to marry him. She accuses him of using the money to make up Bro Militia. I swear the writer's room was just a group of 15 millennials using their full brain power. And they go to the courthouse and get married with Frankie as their witness. Later that night, the newlyweds are at a going-away dinner with Luke's Marine buddies. At one point, the guy from before, the one who wanted to touch Cassie's ass, gives this toast, which is incredible.
This one is to life, love, and hunting down some goddamn Arabs, baby! Really?
And it's so wild to do this at a crowded restaurant. Like, he's so into it. He's screaming with a manic grin. His drink is spilling everywhere. People in the restaurant are turning around to look at him. Obviously, Cassie is incredibly uncomfortable. They fight about it.
Arab is an ethnicity, and you're making it sound like you're hunting down everyone of a certain ethnicity, which sounds kind of problematic.
And he says this, which I love.
What exactly would you like us to do, huh? Go over there and teach them pronouns?
And Luke storms out of the restaurant, and Cassie follows him, I guess, to yell at him some more. I don't think they're fooling anyone right now. Luke says this.
You preach this future is female. But how do you think those women feel in Iraq?
No, keep going, Luke. Tell us how these women in Iraq feel. I want to know. They pretend to make up to fool the table, and it's not like I'm a body language expert, but I can see that Cassie's not speaking and that she's not hugging this man in a way that even feels familiar. How does this feel like a sufficient resolution to an observer?
See, now they're hugging.
Oh, they're fine now.
Hopefully no one can read lips. After dinner, they accidentally book a hotel room with only one bed.
Make it count, fellas. Big tonight. In bed.
So of course they have to sleep together, and the next day Luke deploys. To get to know each other better and to make their marriage more believable to the authorities, they set up a time to video call and send each other emails. Luke takes these video calls out loud in front of everyone, and in one of them, Cassie sings her original song, Come Back Home. I guess she's pro-military now. I don't know when that happened. I'm sure her punk rock fan base is going to love this.
That's my wife.
Actually, maybe Cassie is doing a meta commentary about how the US should pull out of the Middle East. Cassie posts her song on Spotify and it goes viral. Cassie is over the moon, but she can't get in contact with Luke to tell him the good news. Then she gets a call letting her know that Luke has been injured in combat.
His legs were injured during an IED detonation.
It's at this point you kind of see the writing on the wall. She's going to have to take care of him, and that's going to make them fall in love. So I would have paused here and go on a little tangent, because I think if this were a real musical, this would be the end of the first act. You already remember that I mentioned that Purple Hearts was based on a book by Tessa Wakefield, and you might be curious what the book is like. Honestly, the book is fine. This movie kind of succeeds in being an abridged version of the book, especially in the way that the characters are laid out. And the book manages to tell a story that's marginally more coherent and nuanced than the one you'll find in the movie, but they both find their own ways to fail in providing a full and interesting picture of a complex relationship. This book came to be because an executive at Alloy Entertainment listened to a podcast about fake military marriages and asked Tessa to write a book about it. And while the movie feels intentional because of its cunning political goals, the book really reads like the author's heart's just not in it. The book works a little better for a few reasons, one of which is that the book is set in Texas, which works much better as a setting to underscore the political tensions that the movie is trying so desperately to explore. I'm not very familiar with Southern California, but it's my perception that California, and especially Southern California, is a very liberal place to live. Meanwhile, Texas has had a very recent history as an unexpected place where there have been more contesting political opinions. Additionally, I think Luke's character works better in Texas, and his family does feel really out of place in Southern California. The setting change doesn't make much sense outside of the fact that there are probably more production crews that exist in California, so it just made more sense logistically for it to be filmed there. And maybe none of the actors wanted to do a Southern accent. Another thing that makes the book a little more interesting is the character of Toby, the guitarist for Cassie's band, who you can actually see in the movie. It's presumably this guy. Toby is a romantic foil for Luke. He and Cassie are a lot more similar ideologically, and they share a lot more of the same interests. She dates Toby while Luke is deployed, and as Cassie is taken care of and falling in love with Luke, she really has to confront certain parts of herself and her taste in men. In these moments, she learns things about herself that lead her to choose Luke, so it feels like she's more of an active agent in her own love story, and she doesn't just end up with Luke because it's the path of least resistance, like she does in the movie. I was surprised when I learned that this has been changed, because the character of Toby would work even better in the movie as a way to raise the stakes in a more plausible way for their lie to be found out. Additionally, it would serve to emphasize that Cassie is truly only dating Luke out of convenience, and her relationship with Toby could signal where her emotional investments lie at any given moment, and would be a better stage to show Cassie's political views, which she would now be able to explicitly explain to another person. After saying all this in the book's favor, I should reiterate that I don't really like the book. I still attribute a lot of the movie's failures in character development to issues that originally started in the book that were amplified in the adaptation. So the book is mid. You can tell that the author, while an okay writer, is just fulfilling an assignment, and on my read, it was just missing that spark that gives other romance novels more gusto. But let's get through the rest of this movie. It's honestly a bit of a slog. So Cassie has just learned that Luke has been injured in an IED explosion and is coming home immediately. She wants to tell his family, so she looks up Luke's brother's name, and his entire address literally just pops up. That's bad, right? Like, they have a family business. It'd make more sense for that address to be findable. Cassie goes to the hospital with Luke's family, and when she brings up Frankie, Luke tells her that Frankie died in an explosion. Cassie is so upset, but like I said earlier, Luke seems kind of chill about it. Good to know he's unfazed by the fact he nearly lost his life in combat and watched his best friend die. He seems more paranoid about getting caught in a fake relationship. Luke's dad helps Luke move into Cassie's place, and he seems more concerned about the fact that she's flying a BLM and pride flag than the fact that she lives in a 3-story walk-up with a handicapped war veteran.
Good lord.
Like, is there no universe where Luke could have lived with his dad for a few months until he was able to climb the stairs? We saw his dad's house. It looks very large, and presumably he lives there alone. But whatever, they get him up the stairs, and when they're in the apartment, Cassie tells him that he cannot sleep on the bed. Like, I don't know, Cassie, maybe the guy who just got his leg blown up in a war could take the bed and you could take the couch. Am I the worst person on earth for suggesting that? She makes a joke about spicy food killing him, they fight about it, and then Luke and Cassie decide that they'll get divorced once Luke fully heals. In the meantime, Luke starts his physical therapy and Cassie auditions for a label, but she auditions alone. The label guy even says,
"Everybody, thanks for coming out. I'd like you all to meet the newest artist we're considering for our label, Cassie Salazar."
So, like, what happened to the rest of her band? Did they drop her for being too conservative? Luke and Cassie keep living together and getting closer. Cassie tells Luke she doesn't believe in love, and coincidentally, this is when they begin to fall in love. One night, Luke is home alone and he gets a call on Cassie's house phone. Why does she have a house phone? This movie was released in the year of our Lord 2022. I genuinely don't think I could name a single person with a house phone, let alone someone who is, like, canonically 27. That's besides the point. Someone broke into Cassie's mom's house. Luke goes in, and we see that it's Jono threatening Luke for the rest of the money. They come home, and Cassie passes out from her diabetes, but Luke rushes in to save her. It's very sexy. The next morning, Luke goes to a random parking garage to give Jono the rest of his money and then beat the shit out of him. Then Jono goes to Cassie's mom and tells her about Cassie's fake marriage, which forces Luke to admit that he became an addict when his mother died of cancer and he needed the money to pay his dad back for wrecking a classic car. Cassie is very upset that Luke put her mom in danger and tells him that she wants a divorce immediately, and then she goes to her sold-out show to sing a very timely song about hating someone. After the show, Cassie learns that she'll be opening for Florence and the Machine, a dream come true. But simultaneously, Luke is summoned back to the base because Jono went to the police with evidence about Luke and Cassie's fake marriage. At the trial for fraud, Cassie sits in the back and makes vague eye contact with Luke. She barely whispers hi across the courtroom. Luke's face softens for a moment as he considers what to do next. The trial opens with the judge discussing how Cassie's case will be referred to the local authorities. Her dreams of being a rock star perched precariously on the shoulders of one Luke Morrow. How do these characters feel about this development? Well, the movie doesn't tell us. For some reason, we reach the emotional climax of the movie and we have to figure it out ourselves. Concern fogs over Luke's features. He wants to make a statement, but his attorney tells him that they actually stand a good chance of winning the case if he doesn't speak. So he doesn't need to speak. It's not like his back is up against a wall or anything, but he wants to speak, and so he lies and says that he coerced Cassie into marrying him and that she wasn't aware that it broke the law. Which, like, I guess this is self-sacrifice for Cassie, but it doesn't really make any sense if he was probably going to win his case and she was probably going to win hers too. And it's not like he's coming clean and accepting responsibility. He's covering up a lie with another lie. I'm not sure what we're supposed to learn from this interaction.
Prison, honey.
Whatever, we're almost done with this stupid movie. Luke prepares to go to prison. Cassie opens for Florence and the Machine. The song is called Love My Everything, which is trying really, really hard to be a top 40 hit, but it's so boring.
until you loved my everything. The good, the bad, the in between.
We get a montage of their relationship, and she makes it out just in time to see Luke off to prison. Luke's dad says that he's proud of him, but he seemed pretty upset before. All that growth must have happened off screen, I guess, but it's good to know their relationship is healed. I'm happy for him. Cassie peels into the parking lot, and she tells Luke that she wants to wait for him. Luke says that,
Cassie, I'm going away for 6 months.
Well, I want to wait for you.
As if he wasn't deployed for the exact same amount of time. It's not like he's doing a life sentence, but whatever. She gives her big closing monologue, and they take him away. It's the Purple Hearts version of a running to the airport scene. They kiss, and that's it. The movie is over. Credits roll. We did it. You might be wondering, how do I feel about this? And I'm glad you asked. Let me tell you. My biggest gripe with this movie is that it's not entirely clear how they end up falling in love. Remember earlier when Sophia Carson described it as,
we meet two people from opposite ends of everything, and through the power of love, they learn to love each other.
I'm just not seeing that. I can kind of see what they're gesturing at in the first half, but in the second half, their political tension kind of disappears. Luke calls Cassie a snowflake, but it just feels like he's going through the motions. This movie is supposed to be about a liberal and conservative falling in love. What happened to that? They just forgot about it halfway through, I guess. So you have this strange movie where Cassie and Luke don't grow as people, but just fall in love because they live together for a little bit. It's like falling in love with your roommate. And that's bad, right? It's bad if the self-proclaimed point of this movie just ceases to exist when it becomes inconvenient for the writers. You kind of expect a movie like this to be in the middle, or to at least pretend to be in the middle. But Purple Hearts is so lazy that it's very obvious that this movie is written from a very specific perspective because they're constantly trying to justify the actions of the soldiers. Luke is obviously the main offender. He's constantly making excuses for the soldiers while putting down Cassie's belief.
Okay, we're just blowing off some steam. It's actually a pretty big night.
Okay, it's all bullshit bravado. I don't think you understand what we're preparing ourselves to go and do.
We know Luke disagrees with Cassie's ideology, but we don't ever really learn what his ideology is. You get the sense that Luke is a contrarian, incapable of forming his own political opinions, but just opposed to whatever Cassie's beliefs are. Or at the very least that he's just a people pleaser, which needless to say, it's not a good sign when the lead of your political drama seems like he doesn't want to rock the boat. I'm not asking for Luke to be a bigot, but the movie feels so terrified of giving him any blatantly conservative characteristics. On the other hand, beyond Cassie's series of SJW talking points, it's very obvious that her latent beliefs are conservative-leaning. Beyond her hit song about the war in Iraq, she constantly says things like this.
Another war that never ends.
Yeah.
And this.
How about starting with knowing who your actual enemy is?
These are simply not things that somebody who is as liberal as Cassie is would say. Sophia Carson said that this movie took 5 years to make, and I can't help but wonder if a significant portion of that time was just going back and forth with the studio about the script, slowly stripping away all of the politics of the movie until we were left with this empty husk of a film. It's obviously conservative, but it's also trying to pander to as many people as possible, just like Sophia Carson's singing. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that they were able to get scenes filmed on a military base for free, but only after a military liaison, who's worked on a number of films about the military-industrial complex, added his touch to the script. Honestly, you could show me any still image of an open space and tell me that's a military base, and I would just believe you. It's not like they use any dynamic spaces from the base. It just really feels like they traded in the believability of an unimportant secondary location for the political authenticity and overall quality of their script. And frankly, that feels really shady to me. I can imagine that anything important that the movie wanted to say was stripped in these revisions. I hope filming on base was worth it. Sophia speaks in depth and often in interviews about wanting to star in a movie that has deep political and social meanings, but I can't help but ask, is this a message you're proud of presenting?
It truly was the reason that I fell in love with this project, because it was so much more than a love story. It was a love story with deeply important social political messaging. There were so many incredibly social political issues that needed to be told that our story does so beautifully. And
it's even funnier when you hear Sophia Carson compare Cassie as a character to Joan Baez. Cassie has absolutely no conviction. Do you think this is how Joan Baez would open a concert?
To all the brave men and women who are serving our country on the other side of the world.
Joan didn't just criticize the military and wear a Future is Female shirt.
You have been withholding part of your income from the income tax because you oppose its use for military purposes, is that right?
That's right, 60%. That's a terrible amount of money to go to military use, I think.
She didn't just drop all political ambitions when she got married. She remains a prominent political activist. But That's not how it happens for Cassie. In fact, Cassie comes to Luke's side immediately, whatever side that's supposed to be, and she compromises all of her values without a second thought. Halfway through the movie, she drops her SJW snowflake shtick and falls in love. But that's another issue because even reading their love story as a compromise is kind of a stretch because, again, we see neither of them overcome any real issues. No one's beliefs are challenged. Cassie learns to respect the military after seeing them have one rough day, but that's not an emotional journey, that's a change she makes in a single scene. For example, does the film think it's negative for Cassie to enter into a fake marriage to get free healthcare? It feels that way, but then again, she doesn't experience any consequences from it, and the film doesn't give her any other option. Luke takes the fall even though it was Cassie's idea. Or does the film look down on Luke for being prejudiced towards illegal immigrants? How does he grow from that belief and navigate his relationship with Cassie's mom? He meets Cassie's mom later in the movie and seems pretty chill about it. Does Luke become critical of the military's involvement in foreign affairs after he's injured in combat? Or does Cassie learn to value the role that the US Armed Forces play in global politics? Not really. None of these questions are solutions to these issues, but they at least present them in a more complex way than the passing mention that they exist. They obviously wanted a film that addresses.
And then, of course, the issue of healthcare and type 1 diabetes and the insulin crisis, which is immensely important, the issue of immigration, the military.
And that's all fine and dandy, but when you bring an important topic into your movie, you have to be especially certain that your movie follows through on that in a way that you're proud of. I agree, these are important issues that deserve to be platformed, and I don't expect you to solve them all in one film, especially not this film, but I expect your commentary to, comment on them. Okay, whatever. You're going to make a movie like this. You don't really want to make it about politics. Then you have to make it interesting enough to be about something else. You don't get to say it's about politics and then it gets to not be about that. I refuse to accept that. Even if I wanted to be incredibly generous and say that this movie was about their emotional histories and what they're bringing into a relationship, the movie fails on that front too. It gives us the vague suggestion that Cassie has daddy issues that make her not trust men, and it tells us near the end of the movie that Luke's mom died of cancer and he was so emotionally affected by that it drove him to drug addiction. But by the time we really get into any of these ideas, it feels like too little too late. So you're just watching them fall in love and you simply don't care. But to be fair, even if they did write the perfect centrist movie where they met in the middle, or if they just ditched the politics completely and had a beautiful love story, that wouldn't be a movie that I would enjoy more. I only like this movie because it fails so hard to be about anything at all. At the very least, I would appreciate a film that shows some sense of conviction instead of trying to play both sides. It feels like virtue signaling now because networks are so terrified to isolate any of their viewers that none of their media actually explores any of the issues it presents. And so the movie ends as quiet as it began because there's absolutely no tension, there's absolutely no sacrifice, and there are absolutely no lasting consequences besides Luke spending 6 months in prison, which he frankly deserves. There is so much more to say about this movie and what it says about American politics, but I don't want this video essay to turn into a video dissertation. So that's Purple Hearts. Did we learn anything? Did we at least enjoy ourselves? At the end of the day, Purple Hearts is a movie that is just a destination and not really a journey. It's loosely held together by not any real politics, but rather by the politics of the masses, conventional attractiveness. And I get it, I really do, because I like to look at attractive people too. Who doesn't? I swear this movie is just Cocomelon for adults. If we put pretty people on their television, maybe they'll stop being so fussy. At the end of the day, Purple Hearts is an easy watch, it's second screenable, it's just a movie, but shouldn't we care about the themes we're internalizing from the media that we watch? Shouldn't we expect a higher level of storytelling for ourselves, one that follows through on the themes it promises? Isn't this how populations become susceptible to propaganda? The most frustrating part is that I know I'm not saying anything new about this phenomenon or about Purple Hearts as a movie. Purple Hearts has a Rotten Tomato critic score of 33% and an audience score of 69%. The people have spoken. So if you care at all, please go rate this movie half a star on Rotten Tomatoes. With your help, we can make a positive change in the world. I'm just kidding. Thank you for watching. Sophia Carson even floated the idea of a Purple Heart sequel, but at this point, that just sounds like a threat.
Be kind to me!